me coming out, and I just have to live, and I wanna give. I'm completely positive. I think this time around I am gonna do it like you never knew it. Oh, I'll make it through. The time has come for me to break out of the shell. I have to shout that I am coming out.
Welcome to the show Never Too Late Ever, where we focus on making your next chapter the very best chapter ever. I am your host, Lorraine Hoving from It's About Time. I am so glad you are here today. This day could change your life. Open your heart, your ears, and listen. You may find a gem, a treasure that you can apply to your life today. And today we have Renee back here. Hi, Renee.
Hi, Lorraine. How are you?
Good. Hey, love hearing your voice. And for those out there, if you didn't hear Renee's story from last week, you may want to go back and listen to it because it's an incredible story and a journey that she has gone through. And so I am so happy to have her. I'm going to read a little bit about her and then we'll get right back into it. Renee has cultivated and inspired individuals and teams for over a decade. After over 25 years working in corporate America, she started her professional training and speaking as an instructor at Women Helping Women in a nonprofit organization where she donated her time helping the unemployed and the underemployed find and keep their jobs. Now, this is what we listened to last week. She suffered a devastating illness that took away her voice for, I think it was almost 4 months. And then a few years later, the loss of her best friend and then her father. Renee decided to follow their example and never give up. Now, that legacy is how Renee has chosen to live her life and help others, showing them that just when they feel life is closing in on, and imagine not having your voice for 4 months, you would feel like life is closing in on you. There is always a way out. She works with women now that struggle with limiting beliefs so that they can find their voice again and with more clarity and more confidence to go from surviving to thriving. Welcome back, Renee.
Thank you so much, Lorraine, for having me back. I'm happy to be here and share our voices together.
I love it. I love it because you talked about your best friend and how one person made a gigantic, made the difference of life or, life or death in your life at a time when you needed someone. And I want to remind the audience, even when you feel your voice is small and tiny, you never know the difference you can make. But I also want to talk, as we were closing out, Renee had mentioned how sometimes we don't use our voice because we feel like we need to please people. So I'm not going to say this because I've got to make this person happy or whatever. Talk a little bit more about that and how we sometimes make ourselves very small because we're trying to please other people.
Well, thank you, Lorraine. I think a lot of it has to do with comparing ourselves to others. And we see so many people doing different things like, well, look what they're doing and look what they're doing. And then you start looking at yourself and, a lot of limiting beliefs, if it's not from things that you're seeing currently, a lot of them come from, growing up. And it could have been maybe a teacher or a parent, or it could have been a quote unquote friend that maybe didn't want to see you excel, which obviously I'm saying quote unquote, those air quotes, which I always hate, but the people that stump us in our life and we allow them to because we're thinking, well, they're looking out for my best interest, and maybe they're not. Maybe they don't want you to move forward because they don't, keep you where they are, rather than you moving forward. It's like somebody that's lost a lot of weight and maybe they're, all of a sudden they're in a different place right now, and then their friends are not. So they're moving forward, but the people that they used to hang out with are still in that same position. So they don't want them to keep moving forward. And sometimes things like that do happen, but you never know. You never know what the catalyst is in somebody's life. that gives them a limiting belief about themselves, but we do have them. And, our brain goes back to those beliefs even into adulthood. If maybe a teacher that said something that really you hung on to that, even though it was a negative thing, it's a tape that keeps replaying itself. Like, I'll never be good enough, I'll never be, fit enough or smart enough or this enough, or if you were compared to a sibling, you keep doing that in your life, and you become that your own,
Your own worst
detriment,
enemy.
I would say.
So,
your own worst enemy. So, yeah.
So Renee, we've all had that tape recorder in our head, that negative, you're never going to amount to anything, all of that. How do we overcome that limiting belief? Because it is a limiting belief, because believe you me, audience, we are all infinitely wonderful, created, and unique. So how do the people out there that are listening, they say, oh, I have that negative voice in my head and I'm always comparing. How do they begin to believe in their self again?
Well, the first thing I would do is write those things down that you believe to be true. And what we believe, our thoughts become our beliefs, become our actions, our behaviors. We create these stories. And I do say stories because we can change that narrative anytime we want. We are the authors of our own life. And it's up to us to change that narrative. Now, if you're like, well, that sounds great, you did it, how would I do? If you're in this space of negativity, it's like, how do you just get out? You didn't get there overnight, right? It didn't just happen and you didn't wake up and all of a sudden you were negative. Things start spiraling down into that, area. It's like the seed that you plant. When you plant a seed and you water a negative seed, you're going to keep getting more of that sprouting. When you plant a seed, a positive seed, and you keep looking for the positive, you're going to get positive growth around it. So that's what you want to start doing. The first thing when you're writing a list down of things, those beliefs, those negative beliefs, ask yourself, is it true? I mean, write it down. Is this really true about you that someone has said, or that you believe that you have made your story? Is it really a fact? Is it true about you? Or is it true because you feel this person said something? Well, it must be true because I value their opinion. But it's an opinion. Is it a true fact about you? Is it, because most of these things are not truth.
Right.
They're statements that you took on and made it true. And you started acting that out as your own, and you took it on as your own. And the thought became the belief, became the behavior, became the action.
Right, exactly. It was a perception that we believed that was not necessarily true. And that's very good for you out there to sit down and write what you're feeling and ask yourself, is it true or is it not true? And you will find out that 99% of everything is not true. I like what you said, Renee, that we are the author of our own lives. So we are responsible for if we continue with that tape recorder, we're just not going to get anywhere in life. So we are responsible to take it out and then do as Renee said, which is a great exercise. Anything else on those limiting beliefs that hold us back?
Well, you're making a list of them, right? So maybe it's 5 or 10, whatever they are. Write them down, because when it comes out of you, that's when you're going to really see it, and you'll be able to examine it and really ask the question, are they true? And one by one, go through them, and you're going to see, like you said, Lorraine, many times they're not. And then I would also write the things that are great about you. What are the things that, the more you start looking at it, well, I guess I have this. I guess I'm a nice. Well, you are. If you guess, you are. Don't say I get, because you're trying to find the good. So there's a lot more good than you think. But when you're in a negative space, you're only looking at the bad, that you're just not worth anything. But that's so not true. It is so not true.
Right.
And go ahead.
And one thing I wanted to say is too, what I like is that you're asking them to write it down, because sometimes if I were to just think about it, it's not near as effective. When you start writing things down or journal, you will be surprised at what comes out of you. Isn't that kind of right, Renee?
It's exactly right. And I mentioned that in our last interview last week, because I do say I keep a gratitude journal. I said that last week, and I encourage that because when you find things that you're grateful for, I do mine at night. Sometimes I do it in the morning, but usually at night before bed because I like to go to bed with some positive thoughts in my mind. And, when you think about the things that you're grateful for that happen in your day, it gives you more to be grateful for.
Right.
Whether it's your family, your friends, roof over your head, meals, that you're able to enjoy, whatever it is. You're having even Zoom right now because people are doing Zoom a lot right now as we're interviewing. So, I know we're missing that personal connection as we're interviewing in this time, but you can still, there's ways to make things, you can't change what is, but you can change how you perceive and receive it.
Absolutely.
Things happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
And
it's what we do with it.
Other thing, yes. What are you going to do about it? Because things will happen, but it's us that are responsible for ourselves. And the thing I like about writing rather than just thinking is it's almost like a mirror. Have you found that, Renee? It's like a mirror. Then you go, oh, there it is on paper. Now I can sort it out a little bit better.
It is. I'm going to say something. My book, and I really encourage and your audience to get it. It's on Amazon. It's called Finding Your Voice.
It's finding your voice. Yeah.
It's called Finding Your Voice. Unlock your change and unleash your greatness. And I subtitled it that because I truly believe that the limits I had on myself, the chains I was bound up in and bound up upon were my very own. And so in finding my voice, it's unlocking the chains to unleash the greatness that we have within us. In my book, I leave at the end of each chapter maybe 3 to 4 pages, lined pages, for the readers to actually answer questions that will help them unlock their own chains and unleash their own greatness within each of the chapters. So it's a great book with exercises after each chapter. It's a short book, an easy read. It's only like 83 pages, so I'm sure you can, go through it in a quick amount of time, but I wouldn't read it too quickly because I want you to take time in it. As I said, there are lined pages at the end of each chapter for you to, write down things, write your answers down. I want to really delve in and help you, and this is a way I can help many because in a book you can do that. It's putting my voice into words to help many.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And is the book Finding Your Voice, is it about your illness and walking people through what happened to you?
Not really. Actually, the first chapter I introduced the audience to the illness because I didn't want to write a book about an illness. That to me would be very negative, and who wants to really read about that? But what I did do is I took and I just introduced them to the illness and how I lost my voice and what happened. And each chapter is a story within the book. There's one chapter about how I met Jack Canfield at a meeting in San Diego. He was on my vision board the year before. And then I'm like, how am I ever going to meet him? And lo and behold, I met him. And I have a picture with him. And I spoke to him. It was incredible. Right. Yep. So it was. So there's humor in it, and there's a lot of serious things too, but a lot of humor too. They're going to be laughing at points because I'm just because life. There's things that I did that were kind of comical, and I didn't hold back. And then there's also going to be like things I share that will be like, I can't believe she wrote this because it's putting herself out there, and other things that they'll laugh and say, I can't believe she shared this with us because it's pretty comical. But I do because I want to be authentic, and that's what life is. If you can't put yourself out there authentically, then what's the point in sharing things that you really want to help people with? So it's just, I really encourage people to get, as I said, it's 83 pages. Each chapter is just a few pages. And there's exercises after each chapter to ask you to really look inside of how that chapter I wrote about pertains to you in your own life. Now, a lot of people, from what I've heard, who have read the book already, they don't stop after each chapter to answer the questions. They want to get on to the next chapter, and then they usually go back into answer the questions. So whatever works for you, I'm happy that you're going to be reading it and enjoying it because I know it's going to be helpful It already is helping a lot of people, and I just knew that it was something that I needed to do. It took me a while to